Hi, I'm Dick Wagner. Welcome to the CREST Network's Q&A session. We try to do this every single month because it seems like uh, every day or every few days we're getting either phone calls or emails asking questions about CREST. And obviously, we love to talk about it and what's available and what we've just added. So we're going to go through that. I think there's only about 10 or 11 questions. Also with me today is Bill Giannone. Bill is the other co-founder of the CREST Network. Welcome, Bill.
Good morning, Dick. Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here.
All right, so we're going to dive right in to the very first question. I actually have been asked several times over the last several months how our sales and marketing coaching is different from all of the other self-proclaimed marketing gurus. Bill may have some additional thoughts on this, but one of the things that I do every day is I talk with clients. I talk with salespeople. I talk with marketers. We discuss those strategies, what's working, what's not working. We are absolutely up to date on the latest strategies and the latest ideas for marketing. And I should add at this bullet point that most of you listening understand that the way we marketed in 2010 is dramatically different than the way we market today. I've spent, as many of you have, and Bill has, many years inside the restoration industry. And because marketing has changed so drastically, and we're using things like social media, we have platforms like GoToMeeting and like Constant Contact and Matterport and CRMs of all types and sizes. We have to stay on top of that every single day. Another really valuable part that makes us different, and this isn't just limited to the sales and marketing coaching, but we don't use a cookie cutter approach. Most of the, I'm going to say, coaches or consultants out in the marketplace today, most of those were in failed businesses, decided since they can't do it, they're going to teach. Many of them that are professed to be restoration gurus, oddly enough, never owned or never operated a restoration company. That just puzzles me. And so our approach is that we come in, we study your business. When you want one-on-one coaching, we intimately learn your business, your staff, and then we custom tailor the strategy that fits you and your business. We don't make you follow our stock platform of a spreadsheet. Bill, do you want to add anything to that I may have missed?
I think I just want to make the difference that most guys are of the mindset of those who can do and those who can't coach. And in the case of what's going on here with CREST, I don't see that as a distinction. All of the people that you hear from here, including our other experts, Scott and Misty and other people that'll be presenting over the next few months, every single person who presents is actively working in the industry every single day. And that's a big, big difference. You know, regardless of whether they ever owned a company in the past, that's all well and good. I still think there's a big difference between those who have worked in the past and those who are currently working now in today's environment. I mean, Dick, you're working with our clients right this second, trying to address the specific dilemmas having to deal with what's going on with this COVID-19.
Yep.
You know, what is the mindset of those who have never even had to work in a business or try to meet a payroll or try to direct a marketing program for the last 5 years because they haven't been out there and they don't understand what was happening in February compared to March. That's where I think there's a big difference.
Yep. Thank you. And this one,
Nick, if I may add to that a little bit.
Please do, Scott.
This is Scott. Hey, I want to give you an analogy on what Bill just stated. I've been on some of the blogs about the COVID-19, and several people are like, well, you got people claiming they can kill COVID-19 and they can clean up after the COVID-19, but we can't do that. It's not approved yet. Well, to give you a little analogy, I was a firefighter in my past life. If I'm on the 3rd floor of a building and the building's burning down, it's really not approved to jump out of the window either. But that's probably what I'm going to do to get away from the fire. Well, this COVID-19 is a lot the same way. A lot of stuff here is not approved to do yet. A lot of stuff is, but you're not going to get anything done by sitting on the couch. So to get to Bill's point, there's the doers and the sayers, and the doers have got to get out and try to make stuff happen to try to make it work. So.
thanks. I appreciate that, Scott. This next slide is for Bill. We get a lot of questions about what our financial coaching includes. And since Bill is the financial guru, I'm going to let him address this slide.
I appreciate that, Dick. Yeah, a lot of times guys will ask us, you know, what kind of financial coaching can we provide? And it basically runs the gamut from being able to take your existing numbers, analyze them, and try to find little areas where you can pick up a couple of percentage points of profit here or there. And then at the end of the day, you might be able to pick up 5, 6, 7% profit, which all goes in your pocket. We've got that kind of analysis and coaching. We've got developmental coaching as well, where maybe you don't do budgeting and you currently don't do analysis of your profit margins or your job costing. We can develop all of those for you as well. We can do business development plans if you want to take your company from where it is now to somewhere much different or larger or maybe downsized in the future. We can do all of those for you as well. I take my Wall Street background and my love and experience with numbers and spreadsheets, and I'm able to do all of that for you. Especially now, we've been getting a lot of questions involving this whole COVID-19. There are a ton of things going on right now that the federal government has just approved and passed. And I've literally spent the whole weekend talking with lawyers, talking with CPAs, doing my own research. I read the entire 880 pages of the bill that was passed, the CARES Act. And I think it's very important to understand that what we're trying to do is we're trying to put together a single spot for you to go to get your resources together in order to get your hands on this money. Guys, I don't like to use the term free money very loosely, but right now what's happening with the federal government is they really want to try to help our small businesses survive. And what they're doing is they're giving us money to help us get through the next couple of months. It's a very, very simple process, but we just need to know what to look for and where to look for it. Well, I've put together a package that's going to be up on the website later today, and it's going to include basically a step-by-step process explaining what the CARES Act is, explaining how you can go about getting the money, and then there'll also be a spreadsheet which will calculate for you really simply how much money you should expect to receive from your local lender. Now, again, this is a program that the federal government is supporting, but it runs through your local SBA lender. If you've never taken out an SBA loan before because you may have feared all of the rules and regulations on them, this one is really simply put, it's free money. And like I said, I hate to use that term. The government has taken a lot of the restrictions off of the SBA in terms of qualifying. The government is 100% backing the loan as well. So it's very important that you understand that this money is there for you to keep operating for the next couple of months while the business bit of a pause or a slowdown based on the fact that a lot of people just maybe don't want you in their house and they're going to clean up the flood themselves. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the fear that's out there. Once this fear gets understood a little better and this irrationality goes back to normalcy in the next couple of months, we should see our businesses pick back up, especially if we are continuing to use some of Dick's marketing tricks that he is addressing within our website as well for this very, very weird, rare time. So just understand, it's very important that you grab these resources. Go to our website. I've put this all together for all of us, and I'm available for every one of you guys for emails, phone calls, whatever you need to help put this together. I've made it very simple for you, but I want you guys to make sure that you're 100% confident that when you go to talk to your banker, you're going to walk away with a check in your hand really, really soon. Those are the kinds of things that we offer. And like I said before, when it comes to the difference between what CREST can do and what other companies can do, you know, there are a lot of other companies that can direct you to other people for support. We like to think of ourselves as the first line of support. You know, if you have a technical question, a lot of other consultants will put you in touch with other people. We've got Scott Tarpley with us. You have a marketing question, we have Dick with us. There's a big difference in what we perceive is what I like to call hands-on coaching as opposed to distance consulting. We don't like the cookie cutter approach. We want to do what's best for you guys. So that's our key right now. Thanks, Dick.
Thanks, Bill. And if I can make this thing move forward, there we go. I just recently got this question. I won't single out who it came from, but the question is extremely valid. Aside from your one-on-one financial coaching, which Bill just elaborated on, what learning documents are actually on the website? I really hope that everybody that is a CREST expert has, I hear a noise on the microphone. I really hope everybody has been on the website, been behind the scenes, behind the curtain. Everybody that is a member has been given a username and password. But we have learning documents that'll blow your mind and it will take you weeks and weeks and weeks to get through them all. And I took a screenshot of just one small section of the behind the curtain area of members availability here. And there's things like admin and commercial restoration and invoicing and so forth. There is also a whole list of, in this case, 6 right now, getting ready to add a 7th, verticals on things like hospitality, assisted living, religious organizations, and so forth. And these aren't just 1 or 2 pagers. These are 15, 20, 25, 30 pagers, almost like a college thesis, pretty intense, covering an incredible number of things. A simple example on the hospitality, we identify every national hotel chain, and then we identify every brand associated with each individual hotel chain. We identify which ones are accessible and open and which ones are not. So there were thousands of hours put into the completion and creation of these kinds of documents. Additionally, some of the other learning documents that are on the website. People have wanted to know, those that were thinking about becoming a member. There is a whole section on a la carte services. Every single webinar that we have done since the beginning is recorded. Thankfully, I remembered to record this one. They're recorded and they are archived in the archived webinar section. So you can go back and review something that you participated in, or you can go on when your schedule doesn't allow you to be on at 10 a.m. Tuesday morning Eastern Daylight Time to participate live. They're all there. Videos is another great example. I have hundreds of presentations on specific topics, and I have taken those and created 10, 12-minute videos on something very narrow, like teaching a salesman to get a no, or how to be irresistible in sales. And these videos are also on there. There's dozens of them. Forms, especially forms for sales and marketing tracking, forms for admin, production, and so forth are on there. There's a section on HR documents. And for those of you that have followed the priority response emergency plan process and you have a prep manual, we're updating that constantly. It's changed every few months. Something's added or something's deleted, depending on the current cultures, current world situation, and so forth. So that's even in the prep section, every single document, according to tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, they're all on there, fully downloadable for you. Sales and marketing information, article upon article or form upon form in there. There's a whole section on social media, really ideal for your office manager or your sales and marketing people to study that. And then many of you understand what a Maven article is. And I'm going to tell you that Maven articles, there's several hundred Maven articles on there. Most of them are one-pagers. They're all categorized. They're in the specific vertical or industry type that the article relates to. I have a sheet here that tells me, well, it did, tells me how many articles there are. Yes, here it is. As an example, churches, 16 different articles. Hospitality, hotels, 38 current articles. Plumbers, 20 articles. Insurance agents, 51 articles. So we have an awful lot of that in the library for Maven articles. And then we've even added a Z section, Z just to put it at the bottom of the alphabetical list. But these are documents for your own use. And they would include things like all of the common lingo or terminologies that might be used in the hotel industry or in the church world or in the nursing home elder care. So we've covered extensively just about every aspect of things that you and your sales and marketing staff would need to go out and call on somebody. Bill, do you have anything to add to that?
I think you covered it pretty completely, Dick.
Okay, great. Next one, I want to address several states are or have already passed a marijuana law. And the question was, can I still do random drug testing? And if those drug tests come back positive, can I terminate the employee without an issue? Well, let me put the asterisk here and say every state has slightly different employment rules and regs. So you certainly want to confirm and consult with an attorney in your market to be absolutely sure. But the short answer is yes, you can. But let's clarify just a little bit more. It just so happens that under federal Controlled Substance Act, marijuana is still a Schedule I drug along with heroin and LSD. It is still illegal from the federal government's perspective. So just because Florida or Colorado passed marijuana laws allowing you to have, a certain amount for quote unquote medical reasons, you're still at the mercy of the federal government. Just because your local state says, yeah, you can have up to, 1 ounce or whatever of marijuana, doesn't mean that your employee will pass a drug test. And if you have a random drug testing program in place and you follow that program with drug testing and you have it clearly spelled out what the end result could be if you come back positive, yeah, I think you're covered pretty well. Again, it's my opinion. Talk with your own local attorney. At a bare minimum, you need to create your own workplace drug policy, obviously based on your state laws. You need to inform applicants and your employees of your testing procedures and understand that when you do test for marijuana and it's positive, how are you going to handle those test results? How are you going to handle the employee in that situation? So it's one of the attorneys that I spoke with down here just recently said, just because the employee is following Florida law and is smoking marijuana doesn't mean that they're entitled to keep on working or coming to work all toked up. So something for you to consider. Next slide is for Bill.
Hey, Dick, may I add a little bit on the marijuana deal?
Oh, absolutely, Scott.
Right, this is Scott from Tennessee. Another thing people don't consider when you're looking at the marijuana and the drug testing, as Dick was saying, that is a federal law. Now, you think sometimes maybe the state law trumps that, but if you're driving a vehicle 10,100 pounds gross vehicle weight rating or above, now that includes a lot of your 3/4 tons, includes all of your 1-ton trucks, box trucks, anything like that. Whether you think you are or not, that truck, when you call in, it falls under the Federal Department of Transportation guidelines. You do have to do drug testing for that. And as Bill said, they're not exempting marijuana out of that. And while they're not riding around every day writing tickets for that, it's when you get in an accident that would become a problem if there were to be a serious accident with that. So just keep that in mind on the federal standard. 10,100 pounds is a magic number for that. And they as Dick has said, marijuana is still a Schedule I drug to them. So And with that, Dick, back to you in the Florida network there.
I'm going to send it over to Billy in Atlanta.
Yeah, I'll take it from the Georgia perspective. It's still not legal here in the Bible Belt. And basically, the way that we at CREST like to tell our clients is within your employee handbooks, which all of you should have and be making sure that your employees receive at the time that they become an employee and they sign it, you should absolutely have policies in place for such things. And we always tell everybody to treat it like you would alcohol. Alcohol is legal in every state, but they can't come to work under the influence. So it would be the same thing even in those states where marijuana is technically legal for use. If they come and they get tested and they're under the influence, regardless of how long it stays in your system or any other excuse, you then have all the rights and privileges of ownership that you would have under the same thing for alcohol. This next slide asks, why do I need CREST right now? And it's real funny because when we put the slideshow together just a couple of days ago, these were very relevant, meaningful reasons to need CREST right now. And as the evolution of the last couple of weeks has occurred, Dick and I have both kind of realized that we wish this was more of a blackboard so we could have erased it and come up with a whole new series of reasons to need CREST. But we'll just go over some of the things that CREST offers for you right now. If you're in the world of commercial restoration, we have over 8 hours of short videos, maybe 10, 12-minute videos, just little tidbits. We like to call them $500 helpers. Each time you watch a video, you should be able to bring in $500 to your company. So we've got 8 hours or so of them. We've got 100 maybe. That would bring in a lot of money to your company. Things like dealing with the gatekeepers, simple tricks on how your marketer can get past that person at the front desk of the agency that just is trained to keep you out. I put together a 10-part series on how to create a commercial invoice, and it takes you all the way from when you first show up at the job, the things you need to do before you even show up. Talks about a lot of the things that Scott and his crew have been talking about for years when you're on the job, how you properly document your job, and then how you create that invoice. There's a 10-part series that goes almost 2 hours just for that particular series. But when you're done with that, you'll have all the tools necessary to be able to create a commercial invoice not using Xactimate. And if you don't know why you shouldn't be using Xactimate, then you definitely need to be looking at some of our other materials on the website. We've got these weekly webinars that we've been doing now for almost 4 months, and I believe we're well over the 13-hour mark by now. Look at the topics that you can talk about. These are in-depth discussions. The legend of gross profit myth versus reality, or selling by storytelling. Dick goes into great detail in the selling by storytelling for those of you who haven't been able to take a look at it. He goes into great detail about the way that you should present in trying to break down that. It's a very, very important and very eye-opening. I mean, I learned, and I've been listening to Dick give his presentations for almost 12 years now, and I learned something new just from watching that myself. I put together the legend of gross profit myth versus reality to try to get owners to understand what goes into figuring out a gross profit on a job and why some things that you guys might be considered non-hard costs actually should be hard costs. So just a different way of looking at your business. And sometimes that's all it takes is a fresh set of eyes to kind of change the outlook on things. As Dick mentioned before, he's got over 250 Maven articles discussing all different types of business. And it's just a way to get you in the door and to show value to your clients well before you're actually asking for the sale, so to speak. Dick refers to them as dissertations. They're a whole program on verticals that we put together, all different types of areas of marketing and production for your business. And we were talking before about nursing homes per se. Nursing homes, assisted livings, kind of retirement type communities. They're very lucrative areas of opportunity for the commercial side. But not only did we talk about the marketing aspects of it, we did talk about the production aspects as well, the things about those buildings that are unique, the things to worry about. You need to be much more careful about things like your wires because of the trip hazards with elderly people in the hallways. Just little subtle things like that that maybe your guys are overlooking, but we want to just make sure you've got all the tools. Finally, we've got forms, documents, and white papers, tons of that on there. You've probably heard us say this on more than one occasion about all the resources available to you, and we encourage you to pop around the website. And if you're not currently a member, we encourage you to reach out to us so that we can give you a glimpse behind the curtain. But in answer to the question up on top, why do we need CREST right now? It really goes back to what we were talking about at the start. There are a bunch of people involved with the network, both as members and as our experts and founders, who are intimately involved in what's going on every day within businesses. Just yesterday, Dick and I spoke to almost a half a dozen of our clients specifically about things that happened to them over the weekend. And that's where I think that there's a value that is more important now than ever. We're in uncharted waters, guys. These are things that none of us have ever seen in our lives. You know, I never thought I would live to see the day in this country where there would be ordered mandatory lockdowns, but that's what we've got going on. You know, I heard stories about World War II, and I'm not old enough, unfortunately, only Dick might be, to remember such days. Just teasing you, Mr. Wagner. But we're in uncharted waters, guys, and how we handle this as a business owner, how we handle this as individuals is really going to determine our futures going forward. So these next couple of months, you know, Dick put a post up yesterday on our CREST Network Facebook page that, you know, we're kind of all in the same boat in this industry, but I think the people who come out of it on the other side better off than the others are the ones who are grabbing the oars right now and at least trying to paddle their way out of, you know, what appears to be a little tidal wave of trouble. So things like, what do we do with our marketers when they can't go out and visit people? You know, that's a whole different mindset now. How do we stay in touch with these people? How do we stay at the front of their mind? Dick's got ways to do that. How do we manage our costs? How do we downsize in at a time when we might need to limit our expenses? I've got answers for that. I've got some ideas. Now, everybody's answer is not the same. That's what goes back to the cookie cutter, guys. What happens here in Atlanta with Reliable Restoration, who I'm helping out, is going to be totally different than if you're up in Cleveland or if you're in Cincinnati or if you're out on the West Coast. We have totally different needs, mindsets. You have different opportunities. You have different responsibilities for your labor. You might only have 2 or 3 guys and you want to keep them as profitable as possible, and you want to keep them alive and going so that you can make sure that they're there when the business picks back up. Other companies might have 6, 7 crews, and you might be able to furlough 3 or 4 crews and be able to handle all your business with 3 or 4. You know, so we're going to work through those individually, and that's where I believe the value for CREST is right now. You know, yes, you're paying a fee to be part of the CREST network, but we want to make sure that you're getting value every single day from what we can offer. Back to you, Dick.
Thanks, Bill. See if I can advance this. I got an email. It said, I'm not really sure if my current marketing program and the people doing the marketing are very effective. Do you come to our office, evaluate, and make recommendations on ways to make my sales and marketing department rock? More than that, we have what we refer to as an a la carte program where you can get certain services based on your membership level. As you know, there are 3 membership levels. When you have full one-on-one coaching with Bill and myself, most all of this is significantly available to you. And when you have the middle level, the same situation. But the very first one under marketing, on-site training of your marketing staff, that is obviously me. I'm going to come into your facility. I'm going to evaluate your sales and marketing strategy. And that's going to cover things like the brochures and handout materials and the tchotchke items and the CRM you're using. I'm going to evaluate and interview your marketing and sales staff. Depending on whether you want me for 2 days or 3 days, I'm going to ride with part of your staff or one of your key staff that you're concerned about. And when I'm done, I'm going to say they're coachable. We can work with them, or you need to get rid of them on Friday. So there are a la carte optional services available under the marketing program. I mean, literally, if you're going after plumbers, we have an extremely popular technician and sales and management 1-day class where you bring me in, I teach the class, not to you, I teach the class as your invited guest speaker to all of the plumbers that you bring in. We did this out in California for one contractor twice now. And the last, let's see, was the first time we did it, he had 120 plumbers in attendance. The second time he did it, we kept it to only 1 day. The other one was on over 3 days. The second time we did it, we had like 65 plumbers in a setting where, I mean, they're sold on the contractor. And I teach the technicians, the plumber technicians, the plumber salespeople, and the plumber management and owners, I teach them how to make their plumbing business rock. Under admin is the same situation. Bill will come in and help develop business plans, and for 1 year or 5 years, he'll do a full company profile. And under production, I believe Scott's still on the webinar. Scott will, for a fee, come in and train your technicians on any area or topic, whether that's training them on how to operate desiccants or train them how to establish a scope. Scott, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, we'll be glad to come up. One of the things that we see when you get into the production of stuff is the most mistakes are made during the equipment setup phase, particularly when you're looking at outside equipment. So equipment is something you're familiar with, such as an airplane, but you're not familiar with it, such as flying the airplane in most cases. So you get a big piece of equipment, you know how dehumidifier works, you know how to dry a building with it, but getting it to turn on and operate up to the standards and the good readings that you need and stuff like that is what we train the guys to do. And a lot of safety training in that. You're dealing with high voltage electricity, you're dealing with propane burners and diesel burners and things that can have a level of safety that needs to be followed for them. So, you know, we come in and show the people that and show them how to get started. A lot of people call and the first question they ask is, you know, how quick can you be here? How quick can you be here? Well, we sort of know you're out of control a little bit at that point, because usually you don't need the equipment there to the second day or so. Anyways, you got a lot of prep work that needs done first, and we'll sort of go through training and Q&A and answer all that. So, and with that, Dick, back over to you.
Thanks, Scott. Next slide is for Bill. And there you go, Bill.
There we go. What can I do with my employees in these times? This is something that we talked about last week when Dick and I did our Thursday webinar specifically for what's going on with COVID-19. There are many, many different things we can do. Now, the federal government has put together different kinds of plans. One of the plans was for companies of 500 or less, your employees can stay home if they are either sick with the virus, or if their children are sick with the virus, or someone needs to be caring for their children, they can stay home, and the federal government will make sure that they get paid. Now, that's a program that for most of us, we can opt out of, because for most people listening, I believe, are going to be under 50 employees per location. And if you're under 50 employees, you can opt out of that, because the real way it works is that you're going to have to pay them to stay home, or at that point, they can turn around and force you to pay them. But if you're under 50, you can opt out of that. So the list here is, obviously the first choice most people do is they just lay their people off. Federal government has put forward a lot of enhancements to the state programs for unemployment. So when people get laid off, they can get up to 100% of their salary instead of just a portion, which most states provide. And actually, in a couple of states, they can actually make more than what they were making by being laid off. I'm not saying to incentivize them to ask for a layoff, but if you need to cut your personnel, laying off is always an option. Just remember, once they're laid off, they can look for work elsewhere. An alternative to laying someone off, which is something that a lot of the major companies do, is you can furlough your employees. You can tell them that their job is still there as soon as things turn around again, but for right now, you're not going to be paying them any hours. Now, there's a little bit of a catch for that, because when they're furloughed, they usually can't collect unemployment insurance because they haven't technically been terminated. They're just kind of basically an employee with 0 hours. So if it's a situation where everybody understands that there's not a lot of money to go around and you want to keep them and they want to stay, they may accept a furlough. There are some other options that are like a furlough, but I call it shared pain. Let's say you've got 4 technicians, and instead of laying one of them off, you tell all of your technicians that they're each going to have to work 1 day less for the week. So they'll all make about 80% of what they were going to make, but now everybody gets to keep their jobs, and just everybody shares a little bit of the pain with you as the owner. That's another method that you can use. The CARES Act is something that we talked about before, and something that'll be up on our website later today with all the information. Let me just spell out a couple of the things for those of you who may have heard some crazy ideas about it. I just want to make sure you're fully aware of what goes into the CARES Act. The CARES Act is a loan program and a loan enhancement program through the SBA, the Small Business Administration. But the federal government is doing a couple of things differently. Number one, it's guaranteeing the loans 100%. A normal SBA loan is guaranteed about 85% from the government. So the bank still has some risk. In this case, the bank has 0 risk. Whatever you borrow, the government backs it and says to the bank, you're good for it, don't worry about it. As such, they've made it a lot easier to get. Normal SBA loans, you have to go through a credit application. In most cases, you have to put up collateral. You have to have a co-signer in some cases. In the CARES Act, none of that exists. The only thing you have to do is fill out an affidavit stating that your business has been adversely affected by the coronavirus, and that is it. You then have to apply. You have to bring some numbers, because the part of the bill that I really want to focus on is what's called the Payroll Protection Program. There are other areas. There's an emergency loan program. There's all these different types of programs, but the one I really want to focus on for all of us is a program called the Payroll Protection Program. This is the $400 billion that was set aside for small businesses, businesses under 500 employees. What they will do is they will make sure that they can give you enough money based on your previous year's average payroll. Now, again, there's some tricky math, and I've put together a spreadsheet to simplify the math for you. You're going to go on our website, you're going to download the spreadsheet, and all you're going to do is plug in the numbers, and the numbers are going to automatically calculate for you the amount of loan that you should be able to receive from the SBA. Basically, to keep it short, you take your average over the last year of what your average monthly payroll was, and you multiply that by 2.5. So let's just say your average payroll every month was $40,000. You take that average payroll, you multiply it by 2.5, you come up with $100,000. The government's going to loan you $100,000. Here's the catch with the CARES Act and what makes it so attractive, and I referred to it before as free money. The catch is this. If over the next 8 weeks after you receive the loan, you use that money to keep your staff and to pay your rent and your utilities on your building. In other words, stay in business to get yourself through this downtime. If you keep your staff and don't lay them off and don't furlough them, and you pay your rent and your utilities, you provide that information to your bank in the 9th week after you've done that for 8 weeks, and your loan is forgiven. You never have to pay it back. So simply put, the government's giving you money to run your company for the next 2 months. That's what I mean by free money, guys. It is tax-free, no interest, nothing. You just don't have to pay it back. And when it comes time to pay your taxes, and most times when you have a loan forgiven, that's income. In this case, they specifically wrote it into the law that there are no tax implications. So guys, it's really important. Go to our website later today and get this information about the CARES Act. There'll be a tab for you to click on for all the COVID-19 information, and as the member, it'll be on the member portal. There are some other things listed there, new phone strategies. You can talk with Dick about ways that you can have your employees doing marketing from the office or from their homes. If you're practicing social distancing and you're telling your marketers to stay home and you don't need them in the office, from home, they can still be contacting their contacts. Stay visible. Make sure you're staying in the community. Make sure you're doing a lot on the social media, your email campaigns, hand addressed mailers. You've got time. If you've got people sitting around, they can write handwritten notes. We all know how rare that is these days and how nice that is. Let's try to do something a little out of the box. You know, if you want any specifics on what your company can do, there's a really good chance Dick's aware of who's in your company and what their skill sets are, and he can design a program just for you. Just reach out and ask us, guys. Over to you, Dick.
Thanks, Bill. I want to add one last thing as just a suggestion to many of you. I have a couple clients, obviously both CREST members, who have gone to their local police department and offered to clean the police cars every day, every time the policeman transports somebody, because there's too many unknowns right now in the coronavirus. The restoration companies are going in full PPE, and they're not saying that they're disinfecting it, but they are saying that they are cleaning it to help make it safer and reduce the likelihood of coronavirus in that police car. And they're doing that at no charge. And the police departments are responding amazingly. There's incredible gratitude and appreciation. It's a great community service. It keeps you extremely visible. And let's face it, we all want that policeman to recognize the name of our company trucks and vehicles with our company name on them and have good thoughts about them. So this is one way to do that. And let's switch slides again.
Yeah, Nick, if I might, you started the conversation with smoking weed. You're ending it with bribing the police. I don't know what to think about you.
Well, make sure your employees aren't smoking weed while they're cleaning the police car. All right. Our technicians are often on the front line. They're trying to sell and close jobs. Many of you have send out your technician, hopefully your more experienced ones, to lock down the job. And oddly enough, you're counting on your technician to sell the jobs. You're counting on even your project manager to sell these jobs, but they have zero sales training. In fact, if you ask them if they're comfortable with the selling, they'll just look at you sideways and say, "Hey, I'm not a salesman." And many of them think to themselves, I'm not stooping to that low level to be considered a salesman. And so what we do is we'll come into your organization and teach your technicians how to sell in a way where they don't feel like they're selling, but we give them some tricks and ideas and ways that they can close that deal without feeling like a cheap car salesman. So that's the kind of thing that we can do from an a la carte service. Also, as Scott Tarpley mentioned a few minutes ago, and we mentioned about production training, uh, Scott will come to your site and he'll do training with your technicians on just about any aspect of production that you want. Probably there's nobody on this webinar, with the exception of Scott, that has the depth and width of the knowledge in production. Bill?
Up to me. I want to quit using Xactimate for commercial jobs. Is there a commercial price list on the website that I can download? The answer to this is no. Again, guys, we spend a lot of time on a lot of Facebook sites and a lot of chat rooms within our industry. And many times you'll hear guys talking and discussing price on these rooms, and it is forbidden. We cannot distribute a price list to any of you guys. Your pricing has to be unique to you. You'll never even hear us discussing it on a webinar where it might just be a dozen or so people listening. We cannot discuss individual pricing. That has to be unique. What you can do is you can go onto the website and you can download a time and materials price list template, which gives you all the categories that you should be filling out. And it leaves all of the spaces blank for you to fill in your own unique pricing. The whole theory behind having your own pricing and not wanting to use Xactimate pricing in general, whether it's commercial or residential, is that your price list should reflect your own unique costs of doing business and your expected profit or your needed profit to continue the growth of your business. You know, somebody operating in New York City is going to be paying rent on a building that's going to be significantly higher than someone who's operating out in the sticks in Montana. And that difference should be reflected in the price. You know, certain areas of the country, we can get really good technicians for $15, $16 an hour. In other areas of the country, that's the starting rate for someone who has zero experience. So obviously, it wouldn't be fair to put a rate schedule together that implies the same schedule or pricing for all of us. So you need to be able to do that independently. Now, one of the things I have done for several of our clients is I have worked with them once they've got the template to help determine their own needed pricing. We can examine their costs and come up with fair pricing for their company. And that's something that, as a CREST member, once again, you're eligible to receive that kind of assistance. So please don't hesitate. Go to the website, download the template, and then if you need some assistance, reach out to me and I'll be able to help you out with coming up with that pricing for yourselves.
Thanks, Bill. I want to add one other thing not related to this slide, but I have been asked many times about what kind of training and learning and knowledge and so forth is available to their staffs. And just as a simple example, that, as I refer to it, as a dissertation or a college thesis under those 12 listed verticals that's available and accessible to every member. Just take one simple one like nursing homes or assisted living facilities. There's 20 some pages of information there, and it talks about the fact that there's 16,000 nursing homes. It talks about how many beds that is made up of. It talks about what the percentages of those that are for profit versus government owned. And then it talks about the different names or terminologies that that nursing home type facilities use, from assisted living and elder care and memory care. And there's also a considerable difference between the various types of facilities that house the elderly as well. There is a list on there of how many nursing homes are actually in every single state in the country. There's information on identifying pain points, right down to the details about invoicing on a nursing home. So I glossed over that earlier, and I wanted to come back and just clarify that. Last but not least, we get this question, it seems like every single day, sometimes multiple emails and texts and phone calls every day. Bill, you want to give your take on this?
The fingers crossed is the most important part. Once again, things are changing daily. As of right now, the conference in Tampa is still on for the last week in June. When the president last week was talking about trying to loosen things up by Easter, we all thought that may have been a little bit aggressive, but now he's pushing back his number till the end of April, and some other states are closing their doors for quite a bit longer. I know in Florida, the governor has put some restrictions on the southern part of the state. From the list of counties, it does not apply right now to Tampa. So I don't know if Tampa right now is considered one of the hotbeds the way Miami is. So we'll wait for Governor DeSantis to, keep putting his rulings out as the progress goes forward with the virus down in Florida. But as of right now, everything is still on. We are still moving forward with our plans and with our speakers, and everybody's kind of anxious. If anything, guys, we're thinking the timing of this could work out perfectly to be one of the first major events within the industry after everything loosens up a bit, and it might be a great opportunity for everybody to get together and get fired back up and get their stuff going for the industry, and to commiserate a little bit and share some war stories on how everybody got through everything. So as of right now, Dick, we're still on for the Cat 5 conference in Tampa down there at the end of June.
Thanks. It's by the way, it's a beautiful facility, easy access, not far from the Tampa airport, and the most of you have seen the roster of speakers and so forth. It is truly a one of a kind. We're as I said, have our fingers crossed, hoping that this will be the first major event for our industry. Before I close this out, Matt asked the question, Bill, how does the loan work if you sub most of your work instead of using payrolled employees?
Yeah, great question, Matt. And I did reply privately to Matt, but it's a great question. The payroll protection program does have provisions in there for companies that use independent contractors as well as their own employees. You can deduct the amount for the independent contractors up to a limit of $100,000 per contractor. Now that also, the $100,000 limit applies to your employees as well. If you happen to have a highly salaried or a highly paid with commission employee, you can only count their compensation from last year up to an amount of $100,000 for purposes of the loan. So for the companies that do use a lot of subcontract work, as long as they're independent contractors and not large company labor ready, I don't believe that they would qualify. If they're independent contractors, you'd be able to deduct their cost as well and count them towards this payroll amount for the loan, and paying them going forward for the next 8 weeks would also count towards the forgiveness. That, again, I would make sure that I talk to my SBA lender and get full clarity, because they are ultimately the ones administering the program. So some lenders might be a little more on the ball when it comes to that kind of stuff, but the language specifically does have a carve in for independent contractors providing services similar to a laborer.
And thank you, Bill. We hit the 1 hour mark, one of our longer webinars. On behalf of Bill and myself, we thank you all for attending. We had a great turnout this time. Please check our website, thecrestnetwork.com, later this afternoon, and all of the COVID-19 or coronavirus information, the spreadsheet Bill was talking about, all of that will be there and ready for you to start using. Have a good day, everybody.